Hey, what's up, everybody? Give me 2 seconds here. Oh no, that minimizes everything, does it? Well then, I'll just do this. Fancy zones. Hello. Let me turn this down just a little bit. Ooh, hello. I apologize for the haphazard setup here. Can you hear me? How's the volume of everything? How about that? Better? Hey, what's up, Tayson? Hello, everybody. How you doing? It's been a little while. You can tell I'm probably not in my usual spot. I am currently in the front room, which is where I've been set up for like a week. Oh, here, let me up it then. Just a teensy bit. How about now? You hear the music? Anyone know this music? This playlist? Let me see. Oh no. It's a really fun shadow ombre effect. It's my giant monitor. Castlevania's a good guess, but not quite. The easiest one, these ones are a little bit more obscure. The top one, the first one, would have been the easiest. Yep, Hendrix got it. That's Mega Man. These are... F-Zero's a good guess, too. This is the Smash reimaginings of a bunch of the tracks from the Mega Man... I think it's Mega Man 1 and 2 levels. I'm not as familiar with 3, so I couldn't tell you. Hey, what's up, everybody? Oh, wow. Look, my wallpaper's kicking off. It does that with audio. What's up? How we doing? We have, I don't know, a pretty fun stream for you today, I think. Personally. The office room reshaping is going well. We just kind of ran into some trouble where I needed 2 days with my uncle to use a miter saw to cut our trim. And it was supposed to, I mean, the whole thing was supposed to be done a long time ago. Y'all know that's how house renovation seems to go, right? But we were supposed to finish it this last Tuesday, and it was raining like crazy here in LA on Tuesday, so couldn't do that. So I kind of just had this additional week to sort of get other things done, and, you know, there's always something to do, so it's not so bad. My poor wife has had to deal with me essentially posting up on our dining room table, which is where I am right now, but, you know, hopefully just temporary. And yeah, today's going to be a good one. We got a release window, timeline, date, whatever you want to call it. Oh yeah, happy St. Patrick's Day to everybody. I don't have anything to drink. Are you allowed to drink on stream? On Twitch? Or Mega Man? Oh, Mega Man? Oh my god, YouTube. Sorry, I'm sleepy. I also got my, what's it called? I hadn't gotten my my COVID booster yet, the most recent one. So I got that like a day and a half ago. So I'm a little bit loopy, but not so bad. Actually better than the other ones, knock on wood. The other ones really knocked me on my ass. This one's been not so bad. Yeah, renovations always go over time on like modding projects. Of course. Tazen, you always drink on stream? Alright, cool. Well, I have an excuse then. We're supposed to go out for St. Patrick's Day dinner with some friends tonight, and it feels a little... I would be starting much earlier than everybody else, but it seems like it'd be fun. We're kind of celebrating today because you guys have a release window, right? You're allowed. Expected even. Wow. Connor, we have a date. You know where we're going whenever you come to LA. Well, there's lots of different places. Lots of different places that we've listed to take you to. Yeah, it's not so much... Well, okay, I should really dive right into it. It's not a hyper-specific release date. That's why I keep saying release window, right? But it's one that I've cleared with the team. Lizzie and I spoke about it, and we really wanted to sort of... Well, let me... I'm sorry, but my live wallpaper responds to the music, so I need to turn that down, I think. Till it's beneath the threshold. Fireman. That should just be... Fireman, as a Mega Man boss, should just be like... an ordinary firefighter. Fighter. Let's see, is that going to kick it off? I can turn it up on our end, and it'll be okay. There we go. As long as you drink responsibly. Hey, what's up, Twiz? You follow some of streams, Fucked Up Fridays, where you get shit-faced. I have seen, you know, now that you mention it, I have seen a handful of YouTubers who drink on stream, like, intensely, but not people that I would say, hey, model your behavior after that person. So, you know how it is. Yeah, drink responsibly. Isn't that... It's like absolutes thing. Anyway, so Why don't we go ahead and dive right in, because I imagine that's probably the most exciting thing that we can talk about is kind of the release window for our stuff. So our plan as of now is to release version 1.2.0 in, I believe Lizzie and I said late Q3. Why don't we just call it that in general? Because then if we're ahead of schedule, then just everybody's happy. And if we're on schedule, then, you know, we have all the time that we need. Yo, oh my god, Connor, 34 months. My god. That's fucking nuts, dude. Yo, Twiz, thank you for 2 gifted subs. My gosh. Connor, 34 months, that's fucking crazy, dude. That's insane. You might actually, well, maybe Lizzie has you beat, but if she does, only marginally. You guys are nuts. I really appreciate it. Drunk Euro Truck streams, that actually sounds cool. That's not the kind of stream that I was thinking about. Thank you so much, Twiz. Twiz is going to be there at this St. Patrick's Day celebration. Well, actually, if you're watching, hey, Tyler, if I went and got myself a drink, would you do it too? That way I don't feel like I'm drinking alone. Or maybe people in chat would do it. It's just, man, it's been a, yeah. Oh, Liz, do you want to do it too? No. Oh, I guess that's true. My wife is in the kitchen. Okay, will do. I'm like, if I start this early, is that going to throw off our plans? Are we going to be out of sync? Oh, shit. Okay. Yes, Tyler has to drive Taylor to the airport. Oh, well. Alright, well, I got some chatters who are going to drink with me. I'll just have a teensy little, you know, get it? I absolutely will in spirit. You know, the Jessica Walter wink. So, yeah, getting back to the actual task. The release window is late Q3, 2023 for 1.2.0. The reason for that is really that we just, as Lizzie put it when we were chatting, we really want to ensure that we have enough time to do everything we got to do. A lot of the dev work, especially Lizzie's missives and the jobs expansion related stuff, is really far along, I would say. There's still stuff to do, of course, and some of it's tricky to pin down exactly how long it's going to take. My religion work is a lot less finished. Really, it's only in the preliminary stages, so that's what the majority of the dev time is going to go to. We also need time for testing, and then also, this is a much longer... Yo, thank you for the gifted sub, Connor, again. Wow, 102 gift subs. You might have the top of that at least. What the fuck was I saying? Oh yeah. So this, you all know that we, you know, the past 8 months have been kind of, it's been a sort of refactoring, a refactory period, if you will. Please forgive me for that. Where I just, you know, IRL, I have had to sort of adjust some stuff around in terms of like where my income comes from, right? Just making sure that I have enough money to hit the financial goals that I have currently. So that's been a big effort for me behind the scenes. Because of that, we figured that it was also a good time to sort of, you know, refashion the organization of our development environment and our process. Y'all know how this whole thing has gone. At least if you followed the streams, you probably have some idea. So now we have the wiki, now we have the roadmap, and we have this sort of new development pipeline of sorts and kind of a new style of releasing that 1.2.0 will sort of mark our first real release with this new set of processes, right? So given that that's the case, given that there's still, you know, significant development to do, we really wanted to be careful with the release window and really give ourselves enough time. Again, you know, if we hit it, if we're before then great. It's a little bonus for everybody, but usually that's not what happens. Usually these things tend to take more time than you think that they're going to take, and this is us trying to kind of adjust for that. And, ooh, boy, like, I don't know. I'm really excited about the roadmap. You guys have heard me say this a million times because I really do think that it's already sort of helping on the back end to help us plan stuff. I'm also in the process of migrating our entire sort of development environment over from Jira to Airtable, since we have everything on Airtable now. And I think that's going to help a lot too. I'm really excited. There's like more stuff that we want to do with both the roadmap and with Airtable in general. So I'm excited for that. And the cool thing, of course, about Airtable and about the roadmap is that it's this really high degree of transparency where the tools are specifically designed so that we can sort of show you guys what we're working on and sort of get live feedback in that way. So I think it'll be good. It's just we really do want to give this one, some breathing room. Will the release be more frequent past update 1.2.0? My goal is yes. I mean, if you think about how anything that someone does sort of, you do it the first time and it takes probably the longest it's going to take, and then you sort of cut down on time iteratively with each successive one, right? So there's that element where just naturally I think it would take less time because you're practicing. Lizzie said the next thing that I was going to say, which is that 1.2 is more, it was kind of designed for the older release structure that we did, whereas with these releases we're really trying to do a much more like scaled down, reasonable, more frequent releases, right? So for example, you would have like release I need to kind of figure out how to name these ones, because it'll be like R2, and then like that would be release 2 that will incorporate however many little milestones we want to do, and then of course each milestone has mods or features kind of associated with it, so it's like this onion layering. We are trying to keep the successive releases more frequent than this one, and to do that they're going to be a little bit smaller and a little bit I guess smaller is a good way to put it, right? Like the scope is reduced for each successive release so that we can make them a little bit faster. So like a good example of one would be, or if you just consider 1.2 has jobs, it has religion, it has probably, just because of how long it's been since we, released the last version, there are just a couple little things that we want to sort of sneak in here as well that we know are relatively simple to do that will have a high value impact on the project. So the biggest one that just comes to the top of my head is the regen tweaks. So kind of rebalancing what is frankly a sort of OP or just not super fun in a lot of ways, like regen of certain enemies and animals. Ooh. So that's like a good example of something we're going to kind of fit in there. Just maybe a couple other little quality of life tweaks. I can't promise anything like that. I don't know for sure what we're going to stick in there yet, but it's like, this is a much bigger scale release than sort of the releases you'll see afterwards. What I would like to do is eventually get to a point, and I cannot promise this because we have not talked about it behind the scenes. It's really just sort of, we talked about it behind the scenes as something we'd like to do, but it's not something we've sort of concretely laid plans out for. What we'd eventually like to do is get to like a quarterly release schedule, right? Where we're putting out something every quarter at the very least, regardless of the size. You can imagine that if that is going to be the case, then what goes into them obviously can't be anywhere near the scope of something like 1.2. Even like 1.2, you could take jobs or religion alone, and those are large scale overhauls to a huge portion of the game, and this release happens to incorporate 2 of those scale of changes, right? So the other ones will be a little bit more reduced in scale, but I think that would be really nice. I would really like to get at least some sort of release cadence out, even if it was, once every 2 quarters, right? Something where we can kind of give you guys an expected time frame. We'll have to see if we can do it, because again, this is a volunteer project. All of your support helps makes it doable at all. All of us have lives, we have jobs, so it's difficult sometimes to commit to, a consistent schedule of that sort. Yo, thank you for 9 months, CP. What is up, dude? Great to see you too. So yeah, this is the kind of the general plan. Is the gamepad controls coming out with 1.2 or sooner? It's probably coming out after, is what I would say. It's probably not, like, if you're talking about the big overhaul that I'm working on for gamepad controls, it's very unlikely that it will make it into 1.2 because it's significant. We're already biting off more than we can chew, to use Lizzie's phrasing, with 1.2. Adding the gamepad controls in there would be pretty nuts. But I have been working on them in the meantime. I've actually been working on them a lot. That's kind of the sort of little spare project that I've been doing whenever I feel like procrastinating the stuff that I'm supposed to be doing. I do the controls and I do sort of interface UI design. You guys know that I've been working on that for a while. It's really fucking cool. Also, I see Monique here saying, I ran into your post on Mechanical Keyboard subreddit a while back. It makes sense you'd need more side gigs if you're into keyboards. Yes, this is one of the things I've gotten into lately. This was just over the course of like, while I had been setting up this office, right? I wanted to get a wireless keyboard. I needed a keyboard that could switch between Windows and Mac, and also I needed a keyboard that I could move around because I want to be able to take it into the vocal booth with me. My first, if any of you are into keyboards, may I show you this? And I've gotten to use it now too, because I hadn't gotten to use it. I ordered it, it arrived a long time ago, but my computer wasn't set up, right? So there was no real purpose for it. But I have this, hold on, cat hair, this beautiful, if I may, this is the Ketis NJ80, right? It is I cannot recommend this board highly enough for a starter sort of a mechanical keyboard. It is really just, oof, it is so fucking satisfying to type on. The keycaps that it comes with are like way higher quality than they have a right to be for what is just what comes with the keyboard. They also give you like a bunch of little variants, right, for the different colors. Like right now I have these blues on here, but I actually have a different set of keycaps coming in the mail for a different purpose. But it's really, really sick. I got the Gateron Baby Kangaroos as my switches, and it sounds fantastic, right? Let's see if we can get a sound test. Let's get a sound test in here. I know this is what you guys come to this stream for. Let me see. Hold on, pause. See if I can get the microphone down in here. Someone calling me. Oh, shit. Hold up. Check this out. I'm going to put this over here. I need a typing test website. Go to 10 Fast Fingers. This is my go-to. Here's your sound test. Ready? Ooh. Oh, baby. What do you think of that? Oh, shit. I messed that one up. Oops. Oh. Carry, or even now. Fuck me so by good with light. Something. Take its get made. Took. Ugh. Open, come, being, think, away, some live, they sometimes read for America, no, we're through, move, should, this line, thus, soon, which could, mile, most came on, want, big up and water, he, because, if be often, two, were example, part, oops, own, use many, school, she, few, three, where, will, all day, school, tree, food. 124, not bad. But tell me that sound is not, oof, crisp, beautiful, if you ask me. It's really fun to type on. Mechanical keyboards are cool. And I really I suggest them if you like keyboards. I've always liked keyboards and buttons of any kind. So honestly, it's surprising that it took me this long to sort of get into it. I mean, I always had a mechanical keyboard, you know, your standard like Logitech kind of shit. But man, is there a lot to dive into if you really want to go there. And it has been hard to get myself to not... I look at the stuff a lot and I don't spend money on it because, as Monique said, it is really going to start to add up if you start to go down that rabbit hole. My next thing that I would... Oh yeah, this one's got a knob. And I actually do use it. I wanted the knob specifically. I was like, it just looks so fucking sick. The only thing that I'm really kind of considering buying... The thing that I bought that's coming in the mail right now is the... Keychron just made their own sort of variant of this specific profile of key called SA. Their variant is called KSA, I want to say, right? And I want to try that out. And Keychron makes really good, really affordable stuff. So I ordered a set of keycaps from them that was like $35. So it was like that I can spare. And the only other thing that I mean, there's many things that interest me, but I'm really trying to kind of not be crazy, right? Only other thing that interests me is getting my hands on like an actual, what they call the happy hacking keyboard, HHKB, which is a very different style of keyboard and a completely different style of switch. That seems really interesting to me. So, you know how it is. Anyway, enough about keyboards. I'm sure that's what you guys are here for. But yeah, that's pretty much the idea for the 1.2.0 release. We'll keep you guys posted as we go. One of the things that I'm going to try and do now, again, it's just been, it's really been a wild 8 months. There's been a lot that's been in flux, and I really appreciate everyone's patience as I've kind of sorted this stuff out and as the team and I have been doing stuff behind the scenes. I spoke about it in one of the other streams, but, it was kind of like I think I finally had to sort of sit down with myself and say, okay, at least at this time, for better, for worse, the Wildlander, as much as I would love for it to be, my true full-time main gig, it just does not really seem like that's, at least as of now, and you never know in the future, whatever. Monetarily, that's not really something I can afford to do at the moment, which is fine. That's just how it is. It gives me other opportunities to work on other stuff, like my freelance, and sort of build out skills that way, which is what I've been trying to do. And so the past 8 months have really just been sort of that transitional period where I've been figuring out what to do, how to do it, how to balance the other things that I'd like to do with what I need to do. And I don't know, just kind of figuring that out. So I really appreciate y'all's patience as we've done that. And I really still do have high hopes that while I do these other things, now I've been working on a lot of freelance for at least since what? August, maybe? Sort of August of last year. And I've had to kind of table, this is why Wildlander has been in this organization period, because I have time to do that. I haven't had a ton of time to do development stuff. Now that I'm starting to sort of find my sea legs, I don't know. It's a lot more possible, I think, to get a lot of this stuff done. And this was also why it was if I'm going to have to ramp up my freelance to this degree, that the time that exists outside of that I have for Wildlander has to be organized, because the time's limited. So if you really want to get stuff done, you don't have the time to do it, or you don't have that much time to do it. It helps to be organized. This is the biggest lesson of my life as someone who is clearly not very organized. So yeah, it's been quite the learning experience. At times frustrating, mostly exciting, to be honest. I think everything that's frustrating probably has some sort of, well, I won't say everything, but this thing has been, there's a lot of silver lining to it. And I think there's a lot of ways to look at stuff where it depends a lot on your mindset. Anyway, that is going to be the plan. And again, I'll keep you posted. Oh, that's why I started to say this, is that what I'd like to do again is bring back our kind of first party, my written updates, right? My stream summaries and that kind of thing. So it's something I'd like to start doing again. I noticed, actually, thanks to some YouTube commenters, I found out, I guess I wasn't paying attention. I didn't notice this. They're on YouTube, the live streams have their own category. And as far as YouTube is concerned, or for any of you who are watching on YouTube might be able to confirm or deny this for me, but this is how it seems. YouTube sort of thinks that I haven't uploaded a video since whenever I started doing the dual streams to both YouTube and Twitch. YouTube seems to kind of categorize the streams within their own sort of silo. And I do think that's kind of affected the my own little YouTube algorithm or suggestions, because I had a couple commenters comment on the last video that I had uploaded where I just took the VOD from Twitch and then uploaded it to YouTube manually. Those get counted as regular videos. I got a couple comments on those that were like, hey, where'd you go? Haven't heard from you in however long. And I was like, oh, I still stream most weeks. And they were like, oh shit, I hadn't seen that at all. And then sure enough, when I went and looked at my videos on YouTube, the streams are kind of separated into their own category. So I don't know, I'm gonna have to figure out what to do about that. I guess I maybe will take the VODs and re-upload them, or we have a lot of other video content that we're kind of working on as well, right? We have the trailer coming out soon. We have little tutorial videos. I got some other stuff that I want to do that I'm hoping the organization will sort of help me get to. And I don't know, maybe that will. Anyway, the reason I mention it is that, like, to whatever extent, like, Wildlander can be like a monetary engine for me, like, that's going to be how it happens, because it's very clear at this point that there's not going to be any sort of direct monetization possible. Maybe I could get away with doing things like some cool merch for like the YouTube series and things of that nature, things that I, are squarely within my wheelhouse to do, which is really fun. And I've had some pretty cool ideas that my wife and I have been talking about and that Tyler and I have been talking about. Shorts, yeah, shorts are another super cool thing that I'm excited to utilize, which I think would be great. But anyway, I mention it insofar as right now, and this is pretty fucking cool. I mean, you guys know this already if you follow the channel. Like, Wildlander is not an insignificant part of my sort of income, my ability to live, we'll say. It is right now, Wildlander each month, just about, when you subtract whatever, like everything that's for the team and like the Ko-Fi, so like just my income, the portion that I get, that is pretty much paying my rent, which is actually super fucking cool. That is, like, it's really incredible, and I'm really, really grateful for that. And especially when you consider that that's all like donation-based income. That's all you guys essentially being like, as far as I can tell, we don't necessarily expect anything in return. We just want to support the work. So the fact that that's the case, to me, it floors me. It's really nuts. And in theory, if we were to grow the channel, grow the exposure of the project, if we manage to find more players who would be interested, who simply haven't heard of the project yet, that's the tricky part, is your total, what's TAM? Your total accessible market, I believe, is what TAM stands for. It's like a corporate consulting term, but it's essentially, of all of the users who would play your thing or who would become users of your software, your game, what's a good way? Of all those people, all the people who would play your game would be your total addressable market, right? And then it's like, what portion of that group are we already accessing? That's hard to figure out. There's a lot of research, right, that is sort of geared towards helping people find out what that is for their specific industry or like subsector or whatever. It's like modless or saturated market is true. I think that we bring things to the table that I'm sure every mod list brings unique things to the table that other ones don't. So it's about finding players who are interested in what yours brings, like those specific things. I've always sort of believed that our target audience is not just people who are Skyrim modders or people who play Skyrim mod lists. It would just be even more sort of like Skyrim players, or even just RPG fans, right? Where, this is where the focus on accessibility has always come from. It's like, okay, we think people would be interested in this experience that don't necessarily know how to mod or are interested in that. And so let's see if we can bring that to them without requiring them to get their, dissertation, their PhD in modding. That's long been, pretty much since the advent of Ultimate Skyrim, that's been the goal. So if you're successful in that, if you manage to make your thing accessible enough and interesting enough to where even people who are outside the smaller scene can know about it and can become users of it, then your total addressable market might actually be much larger. That's the part we don't really know. So if I am able to, expand that or sort of market it, it's why we've been doing the trailer. It's why we've been working on some of the stuff in the behind. Oh, well, fuck! Speak of the devil. What's up, Rick? How you doing? That's our trailer editor, trailer head, just creator, I guess you would say. So yeah, we'll see what happens after that. If you kind of figure that, whatever our current user base is, some percentage of those users are participating in like the Patreon, it stands to reason that any additional users you bring in might want to then become patrons as well. At what percent, we can't really say, right? But some. So you never know. We'll see. But that is how it is going to have to be as far as Wildlander is concerned. And it's arguably, it's the we've had this conversation a million times, but the ethics of monetization as far as modding goes, it's very tricky to sort of suss out. A lot of people have different opinions, and regardless of what your opinion is, there's the pragmatic sort of difficulties in trying to do something like that when it's such a volatile topic. There really is a point at which, like, you could be like, maybe you could, but my gosh, is it worth the time and the effort, right? So I don't know. To me, it seems simplest to kind of focus my efforts elsewhere when it comes to direct monetization and let this sort of be a passive monetization. Again, that doesn't mean that I wouldn't do stuff like, merchandising for our video series, or I'm trying to like launch my own little like game studio, right? And this like Wildlander would be sort of the first project of that, you could say, in which case I could sell, cute hats, stickers, pins that would contain logos for like the studios and stuff like that. All of that is a possibility. So I don't know. We'll see. But suffice to say, I just appreciate all of the patience that you guys have shown while we figure this out, while I figure out sort of how to structure essentially my life in a way where I can still make money, as every person needs to do, but still have time to spend on this project, which I care very much about, that can't really be the source of that, right? At least not now. Are donation points on Nexus contributing at all? That's a good question, Other Token. The answer is not currently, but that's something that we are also looking into doing. I have like an entire sort of list of features that we've built into Wildlander that could exist as their own separate mods, right? Per the Nexus terms of service, because the Nexus is fine with mod list authors getting donation points for mods that they've created that have utility outside of their lists, right? For other users. So anything, like as Lizzie said, anything generic, anything that can be generalized can serve as one of those. So that's been another area that we've been looking into, and we're kind of working on it in the meantime. And there are options, I guess you might say. And that's promising, right? So we'll see. And in the meantime, it was just really important to get all of this stuff organized. I also think it's a lot more fun for both me and the team, and also you guys as users, to have like for one, the wiki is its own. Holy fuck, like the wiki is like a game changer in terms of making the game accessible and sort of not this very confusing esoteric experience. Obviously, you have sort of any game of sufficient depth, or any experience of sufficient depth, it can be really tough to sort of understand the different possibilities or sink your teeth into what's there if you don't have documentation like that. And Lizzie and 3D and the rest of the team who have built out the wiki, this is like one of those things where that thing I mentioned with like the total addressable market, that is probably significantly enhanced because we have resources like this now, right? Alongside the wiki, having the roadmap, this is what I was originally going to say. The roadmap, I think, is a lot of fun for us and for you guys, because it's like the same idea, but instead of for playing the game, it's for development, right? It's like you have kind of this greater degree of transparency where you can much more easily see what we're working on and sort of what the plans are. And then you can you'll know at a glance, I've said this in other streams, like you'll know at a glance if this is the sort of thing that it interests you, or that you should become invested in, or, whether there are suggestions that you could make that haven't been made already. It's just kind of, it's a really cool combo. And to me, if anything, we're going to sort of create this not event horizon. What's the where everything kind of comes together and kind of crescendos Critical Mass. That's what I'm thinking of. Event Horizon. Ugh, scary. If anything was going to kind of coalesce into a critical mass, and you were to really give the project legs, it would be these things, right? You have documentation, you have developer transparency, you have strong marketing materials, and you have a strong base product, base game experience, right? If anything was going to sort of, it could be that TAM is only so big, right? But if anything's going to help you sort of capture it, those would be the four that I can think of anyway. And yeah, that's the whole thing. So 1.2, expect late Q3. We'll see how it goes, and I'll keep you guys posted as we go, right? Wildlander Wiki is what a Requiem documentation should have been. Oh, yeah. It's crazy now how many... So we have a thank you channel, right, on the Discord. Like, we are constantly now getting... Most of the thank yous that we get would be about support, talking, or just like, thanks so much for people helping me in support. Or it'd be like, wow, the game's so much fun, and I like it. So many of the comments now are talking additionally about the wiki and how the documentation has just meant so much to them, and how they really feel like they can actually play because they have this resource where the sort of much more mechanically based, like super esoteric questions can be answered. So it's just nuts. I always kind of thought that if we had a resource like this, it would just massively enhance the experience. And it's just crazy that Lizzie and 3D have put together this resource and that it actually exists now. You know what I mean? Oh yeah. Daryl mentioned the Let's Play. I would really like to do that. I've been sitting here, and like Rick and I have spoken about it too. I've spoken about it with the team. I've spoken about it with friends in real life, where like we've all kind of brainstormed ideas for like the next Let's Play. I personally feel like I have some really fun concepts for videos, and that includes like additional Let's Plays. It's really just about making sure I have the time to do it, right? And so that's what I've been working on. And I can't guarantee anything, but I think it'll be good. I think there's a lot of fun stuff in the future, and I'm really working to sort of make it possible. Speaking of Requiem, do you think you'll reach a point where the mod is too restrictive for your vision of Wildlander? That's a good question. I would agree with Lizzie that it always has been in some sense. And what I mean by that, I should be very clear, is that Requiem is a very large scale overhaul that touches many different parts of the game, right? The philosophy has always been I shouldn't say always. As I went along in initially in Ultimate Skyrim, my goal was really to sort of preserve the pure vanilla Requiem experience, right? As I went along, I decided that was not as important to me as sort of changing the experience to do very specific things that I thought fit the experience that I wanted to produce. These are just, it's like the ways in which I wanted to make the experience different from what base Requiem is, right? So we do that a lot already, I would say. Maybe not a lot, somewhat. And I think that's only, sorry, I'm adjusting here. I have a new chair, and it's really cool, except for it's like a mesh instead of fabric, so you definitely can't sit on your feet the way that I'm used to. So yeah, the way that we look at it, so like a lot of the new Requiem updates I do think are super, super cool, and they're things that we might adopt. Especially like, man, that new lockpicking system that Manuel just dropped is like super sick. My philosophy is really just like, in many ways, I mean, for many of the ways that like I've discussed with y'all, like the skill system and the needs system, like these are areas in which you would argue that the experience are pretty significantly deviating away from Requiem, and that's just kind of how it's going to be, because I just really want to do those things. They are kind of integral to sort of my vision for the experience. It's like with anything else. It's like Requiem, it provides just a million well-baked features that otherwise we'd have to find in a different mod, or we'd have to create it ourselves. This is what it always comes down to. So it's hard for me to imagine a future where Requiem was not in the experience at all, because it really just does so much well that we just do not even have to worry about as a result. But we definitely, as the project goes along, there's going to be a lot that is changed. Again, not it's. I'll never say never because you never really know what's going to happen. I guess that's kind of like saying never. It's really hard for me to imagine a future where it becomes more cumbersome to keep Requiem in versus just kind of adjusting it as we go for whatever it is we're trying to do. Does that make sense? That's crazy, Dark Lotus. I do think about doing Hjolfred Reborn. I just love... I think about the Hjolfred playthrough a lot. I think about what really made those playthroughs special. Rick and I talked about this one time where just the sort of ad hoc, sort of collaborative nature of the storytelling and the character growth was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun putting together season 2 with Rathan and, you know, the intricate backstory and all that kind of stuff. But I found that it just, I feel like having so much of that in, like, my ultimate goal with this experience, right, is to sort of create this very in-depth simulation environment that can sort of work in tandem with your brain to just generate like infinite engaging stories, right? Like I want the game itself to sort of be this tabletop-esque story generator, right? And if that's the goal, I think that the season 1 sort of format is really much more aligned with that goal than something like season 2, where I had this, you know, sort of pre-baked, like, intense backstory. And it's not to say that, you know, there isn't, like, in season 2, we're still going along and our character's still progressing according to what happened in the game, and there's plenty of moments that I can think of where we're doing something similar to what we did in season 1, where something happens, we get to decide how our character sort of deals with and understands and grows from that experience or is affected by that experience. But to me, season 1, the comparative lack of pre-baked information, and of course there's a balance, but the comparative lack of pre-baked information really sort of gave us, as like creator and viewer, or just as players, we'll say, like tabletop players, if the game is the DM and we are the players, it really gave us a lot of freedom to sort of, I don't know, like create a very, very interesting character and sort of imagine what their background might be. Oh, actually, wait, check this out. It's in 1 minute, my cats are going to go nuts because they have an auto feeder, and this is where they're staring at the thing. It's going to be behind me. Let's see if you guys can hear it. Here they go. You guys are stupid. I love you. Wait, here. Check it out. Look at them go. Look at these cuties. It's actually wild. Like, you really have to be careful. I now am accustomed to when they're going to... I mean, I'm the one who set their schedule, but... you have to be really careful that they're not sitting on you when the thing goes off. Because they will use you as a springboard. And sometimes their claws are sharp. And, oh boy, you can get some deep cuts. Yeah, the auto feeder is the best. Yeah, me too, Liam. Yeah, so that's all of that. Also, Daikar Gaming, maybe not relevant to Wildlander, but I'm really hoping AI will be used to generate quest lines. I mean, I love that concept. It's probably the most interesting thing to me about sort of the AI discussions that have sort of occurred in and around games and art and whatever. Obviously, there's a lot of considerations there, but if you sort of consider that every game is, you know, like a series of systems, eventually you can exhaust all the options that system provides, right? And an AI-driven game would still apply, but you would, in theory, have a much wider variety. Well, it depends on how it's implemented, but you could have a much wider variety of stuff that is possible. Also, Sendataku, thank you for 10 months. This question was probably asked a million times: what will happen with the Wildlander project TS6 releases? I can't tell you, Rasputin. I really don't know. If the vision is not achieved by then is a good caveat, because it very well could be by the time that Elder Scrolls 6 releases that we've kind of done everything we want to do with it. If we've done everything we want to do with it, then, I assume it'll just kind of continue to exist in that state. And ipso facto, it's done, right? Assuming that there's so many questions that I would kind of need the answer to really give you an accurate sort of like read on the answer to that, on what would happen. But it's really just like as of right now, I don't plan to stop working on Wildlander. I've obviously kind of had to refactor how I do it, but it's still tremendously exciting to me. We're still doing all kinds of stuff. I don't know. Like, as of right now, I plan to continue working on it. If that changes by the time Elder Scrolls, I don't know what I'll be doing. Like, that's probably realistically what Starfield, that's what it's called, is going to come out it's this year, and it's 2023. I'm guessing no later than 3 years before we see Elder Scrolls 6, right? So, and it's probably longer than that. I'm sure it's being developed right now, but it does seem like it kind of takes at least about that long. So I don't know, like who knows where someone could be in 3 years, right? I don't know if I'll have children at that point, right? That's something that my wife and I are currently figuring out, just whether or not we want to have children at all. But if we do, like, what's the timeline? Who knows what, man, if I think I don't have time now, I imagine that's going to cut into it if we go that route. So I don't know. It's tough to say, but I just I'm trying to sort of focus on, the one thing at a time, plan as much as I need to in order to make prudent decisions, but otherwise just sort of focus on what I'm doing right here and now. Because I'll tell you, like many of us, I've certainly tried trying to anticipate every sort of possible future scenario and sort of plan for it, but it really, what's the expression? The best laid plans of mice and men often get all fucked up, I believe. Oscar Wilde said that. All right, well, so I think that answers... is there anything else that I haven't answered regarding the release or kind of like the schedule? Anything like that? If so, please feel free to hit me with them, because this is definitely the time that I have set aside to answer them. And not necessarily 1.2.0 either, if there's anything else on the roadmap that you guys have questions about or would like some additional clarification on. The roadmap itself, that's something I guess I could mention. It's still a bit rough around the edges. There's still a lot of stuff that I want to add to it. That was kind of my next goal alongside the development that I'm doing on the religion stuff now that I'm diving back in. It's like, get this fucking room sorted, which hopefully will be by this weekend. At the very least, by this weekend, I assuming that it doesn't rain, which I'm hoping that it won't. I'll be able to finish the trim, which means I can remove all the shit, right? Like the plastic that's on everything, because I'll have sanded. Everything's painted already. So I should be able to move the furniture back in, etc., etc. No, go for it, Rasputin. I mean, sometimes questions that you have, I'm sure other people might have as well, or if they hadn't thought of it, they'll be like, oh yeah, I'm thinking about that too. Oh, I'm sure, Rick. I can only imagine. I mean, I know that it's different for every parent, but like I don't know. Parenting seems like a very, very difficult thing, and for most parents that I know, it's like what they consider to be like the best thing they've ever done with their lives. A few of the mods say they aren't supported anymore. Why is that? What do you mean, Dark Lotus? They say they aren't supported anymore, like on the... Like, where does it say that? There are mods that we have, like, old versions of. But I'd have to perhaps evaluate it on a case-to-case basis. There are mods that are in the current build that... One of the other things that this will be, if I had to guess, like, 1.2.0, whatever release we end up calling that, we're going to move the naming scheme to like, R2 or whatever it is. So let's just say for the sake of conversation, if that's R2, we'll say R3 because we've had what? We had 1.0 and then we had 1.1, which is kind of like the next big one, right? And then little patches. So this would be like R3, 1.2. R4 probably, if I had to guess, is going to contain... I'd like to put some of the control stuff in there, at least the simpler stuff. Like it doesn't have to be the whole thing. And I would like to do what I'm calling a sort of audit, right? Where there are some mods currently in the build that have more modern replacements for what they do. I would love to go through and sort of cull those and replace them. Some easy examples there would be the SPID implementation of real names, the legend Dylan James, his sounds framework, right, that would replace sort of the patches for audio overhaul, Skyrim, and immersive sounds compendium, and all that kind of shit. We have some E and B shader stuff in there that's no longer relevant that we can remove. Just things like that I would like to do. So those are things that I would call, I wouldn't, maybe not supported or like outdated, that can just, I'd be, yeeted or replaced. Thank you, Daryl. I understand. Just curious what kind of voice works I'm doing. Oh, gotcha. Really nothing like video games or TV shows. That would be super cool to do. I still kind of contend, I've really just kind of not like applied or auditioned for anything like that yet. I would really like to. I think that stuff, again, I have massive respect for voice actors who do that sort of thing. I think you really need good acting chops for that versus just like narrating. Narrating is like acting, sort of, but mostly what I do right now is narration. It's audiobooks are a big one. The other big one is that I do sort of like corporate explainer videos. I've mentioned this in previous streams where it's like, one of my big clients right now, I do like motion graphics animations for them. They just have like simple sort of tech like bylines that they're trying to sort of register with SEO. Things like, what's a good example where I don't give it away directly? It'd be like, what's the difference between, this like IT protocol versus that IT protocol, right? So they'll give me an article that they've written or like a script, and then I'll do the voiceover for it. And in some cases I will also like animate and video edit the video itself. It's really just stuff like that, just narration. I'm not doing, different voices for it. Like sort of, oh, here's my cat. You guys will probably be able to hear him, but this is his post-meal yowling that he likes to do. You can find audiobook gigs like that on a platform called ACX. I really recommend this to just about anyone who's interested in doing this. ACX is, y'all know that Amazon acquired Audible, right? Which is like one of the biggest, if not the biggest. It definitely is the biggest audiobook platform. ACX is their sort of go-between interface where people who have written books who are looking for audiobook voice actors can connect with the voice actors, right? And sort of voice actors submit their auditions. And there's a lot of books out there that need narrators. There's a lot of variety in terms of what those books are asking for. So everything down to what age group you belong to, your gender, your accent, your sort of like background and what you know, right? Like all of that stuff they can kind of specify, and there's a lot of work to go around for people, and it pays well if you're able to do it well and do it fast. So I really would recommend it to just about anyone who's interested in getting into this sort of thing. What are my thoughts on the whole AI tech with using voices to create natural sounding dialogue? I really don't know what to think, to be honest with you. I hear the voice actor concerns, and I understand it. If you have something that can just very, decently well replicate your voice as like an audio, as like a voiceover artist, that's pretty dangerous. That's dangerous to your ability to make money in your profession, right? Because voice actors generally get paid by the line. If you would have asked me that back in, the days of XVA synth, which I say that as though it were ancient times, but that wasn't that long ago. It's like, okay, this is obviously not replacing voice actors anytime soon. Now, like within the last month, right? It's crazy how good some of these voice acting AI models have gotten. I think it's some of the stuff that people have been able to produce with it, I think is really cool or funny or whatever. So I see that side of it too. I don't know. I think maybe we'll have to move to some sort of, my kind of guess is that it'll end up sort of modeling itself after what sort of models you see in these areas, like how businesses sort of license this type of, like businesses license art, right? It's like a good example to me would be like stock footage, stock photos. If you produce, like for example, I have subscriptions to various stock photo and video websites so that I can use the content that they have produced or they have purchased within the commercial works that I create. If I had to guess, because it just seems to me unlikely that this sort of technology is going away. Usually when this kind of thing happens, it's kind of like the toothpaste has exited the tube and you're going to have a real hard time, if it's not impossible, to put the toothpaste back in the tube. What I could see happening would be something like that licensing model where, let's say I'm Troy Baker from The Last of Us, right? Maybe I have maybe you sort of license my voice, and in the same way that you sort of pay me for X number of lines or X time of dialogue, you would pay me for X amount of lines using my like AI synthesized voice, right? That's something that people could do if they wanted to use the AI generated voice. The other important component is that the AI voice, I'm sure they will continue to improve it. It's hard for me to imagine the AI voice ever really, I don't think it'll ever do what a real human can. And that can apply to any form of art, right? Like if you look at like visual art, obviously AI, and the same thing with voice AI, it needs content to train itself on. But just, you can't, like human ingenuity is something that a machine just can't reproduce, right? It can do a lot of, it's like writing, right? Like writing is another area where AI is being really disruptive right now. I think that AI can be a really useful tool for writers, and I think copywriters in particular sort of can use it to, I don't know, augment what they do. But I think what you'll see, like my wife is a writer and she writes a lot of different types of things for a lot of different companies. I have a good friend who's a copywriter, and what they've told me is that they found the AI to be useful in some circumstances, but also it's kind of the same argument where it can't produce something, maybe hyper specific is the right word. Like when they get input from the people who have hired them, the nuance required in like understanding and executing like a strong vision is something that I think humans can kind of do, and like an AI is always going to struggle with, unless we have like literally sentient AI, in which case I think we've got other problems to discuss. So I don't know. We'll see. It's a tough circumstance, and I'm like reading here. I definitely, if you are a creator of any kind and there's AI models being trained in your sphere, it's a scary, scary time. My personal thing is that it's going to, hopefully, I really do think that it's going to end up not being I don't think it's going to end up eliminating as many creators as people maybe are afraid of. Maybe I'll end up eating those words. I don't know. I just see it more as something that creators are likely to be able to utilize. And it's not like, to me, like, let's say that you are, like, if I was like a factory worker on an assembly line, that's where I would be more worried about like automation, right? Like something where I'm physically doing a specific thing that it's not like an art-based thing. It's just like a physical step in the process that just formerly, for whatever reason, it's interesting to me that there would be those jobs that haven't been replaced by robots. I mean, either that means the robots are prohibitively expensive, or it means there is something benefited by the human touch in that pipeline. So it's like an interesting question, but this is a theoretical position. You're on an assembly line and you do something that could be done by a robot, just hasn't been yet. that's where I would be more worried about like AI and automation, because that's the stuff. It's like ironically, it's the arts are where I feel like it's much harder to replace. It's like, okay, like game design, right? Like design stuff. I don't know. Like you see those all the crazy funny like coding AI thing. People go to Chat GPT and they say like code me like this little game, like a Pong-esque game. It's crazy that it can do that, for one. Like that's just nuts. Like from a technological perspective, excuse me, what the fuck? But I don't think an AI is ever going to be able to like make a game, analyze what's fun, what's not fun about it, iteratively change it, and then end up with like an end product that's like special, or like how the artists then get involved, like be able to identify what would be cool to include as like art. It can't really do that. It can do what you tell it to, but it doesn't have its own opinion on what fun is. And that's like, it's like opinions and the unique elements of like the human existence and like the soul, if you will, not in like a, you know, yeah, just like in a material sense. That's what a computer, it's again, unless the AI reaches sentience, I don't see how that can ever be replaced. So if it can't be replaced, that's not something that can be taken from people. Of course, then there still are the pragmatic concerns of like, just because that is true doesn't mean there won't be companies that are sort of willing to skimp on like the quality of their end products in order to use like cheaper AI based alternatives. Like that's always going to be the case. It's like how it is now with like anything really. Like you get a, you know, like a physical product where a company sort of skimps on the quality of the materials, or they do some hella unethical shit, like sort of, you know, there's a sweatshops in like an overseas company, if you're like the US, where it's like they'll sell the labor for much less. These are real problems that it's like in an ideal scenario, a AI and automation and robots and all that kind of stuff would allow less of that to happen and not more. Obviously, there is you can see an easy potentiality, not even a potentiality, probably a reality in which it is more of that sort of unethical, gross shit happening. And that's stuff that I think we'll always sort of have to be vigilant against. Yeah, it's like, it's kind of getting into like a different discussion. It's almost like a, you know, like a philosophical or like economics or sort of political discussion. But the concept of like I've always sort of believed that as AI and automation sort of become possible, and in many ways, again, you can almost see them as inevitable, toothpaste in the tube and all that. I think that there are ways where you could use it. Like here's a good example. There's like let's say there's a company that gets a bunch of robots that now they can replace half of their workers. The ideal like societal, and this is, you know, I'm not an economist, I'm also not a philosopher, so take any of my opinions with like a grain of salt. It's not like I really looked into it that much, and like, you know, I know some stuff. No, there's a lot that I don't know too, so kind of form your own opinions. But I feel like the ideal scenario is like, okay, you have, let's say 100 workers, 50 of them can be replaced by a robot. The solution there is not for the person who owns the company to just, okay, well now these 50 people, you know, are just yeeted from my company and don't have a job anymore. The ideal solution would be that the profits remain static, and that the entire workforce then sort of gets to be paid more for having to do less, in my opinion. I know that's not necessarily you know, I know not everyone agrees with that. And also, again, it's like just my very layman's opinion, but you would hopefully want to see something like that, but on like a societal level, right? It's like where you get sort of, I just don't know what we're going to do otherwise. We have too many people and not enough roles that would be able to be filled by a human. So either you do something like that, at least as I see it, seems like there's two options. You do something like that, or you end up with a lot of people who, I don't know, like, excuse me, don't have a means to earn a living, I guess. And like, that's not good. Like when if there's anything that we do know, it's that as poverty levels rise and as people's inability to pay for, even the bottom of your Maslow's hierarchy of needs, stuff like food, shelter, water, if people don't have that stuff, that is what, like, the thing that we know leads to civil unrest. It leads to higher crime. It leads to human rights violations, is arguably a human rights violation unto itself. So I think that if we don't do something like the former, and I'm not saying it has to be exactly like that, I don't necessarily know what it should look like. It just seems to me that if there's nothing, it's going to start to create problems that we're all going to, what's already, I'm sure, created problems. I don't know. Uh, yeah, so like in that example, Dark Lotus, it's like ideally it would be like the people who are quote unquote jobless are not just getting paid nothing, right? Yeah, like the whole universal basic income is like a solution that people float. Again, I don't see how we can maintain our current population. That's one of the other things I guess you could do is you could just have less people, right? Like if you have this many jobs and like this many jobs and this many people, if you manage to have this many people and this many jobs, then you're okay. Um I don't know. Like it's just it may be depressing by one sense. I hope it's not naively optimistic to think that like we will sort of find solutions to this as a society. But the depressing part for sure is just that like historically speaking, it's how it always goes is like the people, as we find solutions to this stuff, like there are going to be people that are hurt. There's going to be people who don't end up like there will be stuff like, okay, well, these people just basically had to subsist on their own, didn't have any means, had horribly tragic experiences, and then we figured it out, like 15 years later, and so people subsequently don't have to have such a bad of a time. And the people who end up being affected are always disproportionately people who have the least, right? The people who are most vulnerable by definition are the ones who are the most affected. That's what makes them the most vulnerable, unfortunately. It's going to be, we can make jobs for people. Realistically, natural selection needs to make a comeback. I'm definitely not sure I would say that personally. It depends on what you mean by natural selection. But again, it's a separate conversation. Happy St. Patrick's Day, everyone. Let's go drink. How about that? Let me go ahead. We were going to do that. I'm going to grab a shot real fast. Not because of this conversation. I was going to do that anyway, but because I'm going to do some mod suggestions now, which seems like a more perhaps appropriate use of our time. Or we'll just all drown our sorrows together. How about that? We can always do that as humans. That's something that's connected us ever since alcohol existed. I don't recommend it as a habit, but maybe every once in a while it's not so bad. Oh, and I can show you guys just really fast. This is my other mechanical keyboard. I use a number pad. It surprises me actually that a lot of people don't use number pads, but I definitely do. And I thought it was cute because it's like they're not the same, series or whatever, but they kind of look like they could be. You know what I mean? Wait, you can't see. Where is it? There they are. Wow, beautiful. 75-year scotch. What the fuck? Rick. All right, BRB. Give me 2 seconds. Pause. Okay. Well, turns out we don't really have quite the selection that I thought we might. And also, I'm going to do this technically off camera so that there's no. I'm not this. I'm just pretending to do what I'm saying we're doing. But I have an SHOT of TEQUILA. Wow, that was hard for me to spell. And it's basically just going to be straight because we also don't really have any limes or anything of that sort. I have this really gross like, you guys ever seen that like pre-mixed margarita stuff that's like extra sweet and just like blah. I have that. I do have salt, but that's like the pre, right? Yeah, I say go for, do either or both, Dark Lotus. Do whatever you feel. It's St. Patrick's Day is for everybody. It always reminds me of any Office fans in the mix. Or just like there's an I can't remember what is going on in the episode, but I just know that it's St. Patrick's Day and someone's getting into an argument, and then Meredith, the alcoholic character, is like, "No arguing. Can we just have one day, one perfect day? Do not ruin this for me," or something like that. Okay, ready? Here we go, everyone. Let me see where I'm out of camera. Cheers. I'm drinking juice. Oh, okay. It's not good, but it's not so bad. I'm kind of wondering if I need that chaser at all, because it's pretty fucking gross. Oh, oh, oh. That is not good. That's pretty. It's not like the cheapest, but it's not expensive either. Ugh. Ugh. Give me some water. Water is the worst chaser, but you know how it is. It at least gets the taste out. It just doesn't taste like anything else. Maybe worst is a strong word. I think that you can probably come up with stuff that's worse. Oh yeah, I mean pineapple juice would be great. Any sort of citrus is good. Light or like clear sodas, right? So your squirts, your Sprites. I mean, you can get away with using like a dark colored one, like a Coke or something, but yeah, we got nothing. We're kind of towards the end of our week here. We need to go grocery shopping, so there's not a lot in there. I had some olives that I could have used, but we finished them yesterday. That's any pickleback fans here in the chat. This is, for some people, this is really gross. I get the concept might be gross. It's really good actually to use like pickle juice or any sort of brined juice, right? As a chaser, solid. You can get that at a lot of bars, especially a lot of Irish bars. I feel like they like picklebacks for some reason. I don't know if there's like maybe that's where it came from, or maybe just the Irish bars that I've been to. I've not used Chat GPT myself, or I've used it for like funny things. Like my friend has access to the beta, right? And we would just ask it crazy stuff. We asked it, to summarize Wildlander. And the answer that it gave us was like, it was generic, right? As a lot of those things kind of are, but it was pretty solid. I was like, yo, pretty crazy. Yeah, pickle is better for sure. Olives still work. It really also helps if you like olives. And especially if you get like good olives, like the sort of, like Trader Joe's, for example, has a couple different olive varieties. They'll have like green olives that are stuffed with jalapeno and garlic, which is just like, oof, delicious. And the brine is better too, in my opinion. Anyway, let's go ahead and hop into the roadmap, shall we? And I'll turn my music back on. I don't remember where the volume was at for you guys, so I'm going to turn it down. Yeah, the Bing AI is really nuts. Bing AI. There we go. Oh, this is Bubble Man. Airman, sorry. Am I from the US, the UK? Definitely the US. Definitely, I am a Californian boy, born and bred. I've actually never lived anywhere besides California. I've lived many places in California. But I have... Yeah, that actually would be sick, Rick. We'll keep it as a surprise for now. Well, not really. I mean, they know that there's stuff like that in the game, right? But like, I just how it's going to come together, I think, is going to be a cool reveal, and then maybe we'll. I don't know. It would be really cool if we can talk to him and see if he'll let us commission something. But we'll sort of play it by ear as far as that goes. Yeah, for those of you who don't know, too, Airman is super fucking easy, but it has a really good song. Okay, I gotta figure out a way to do this where I can still see chat. It's weird not having multiple monitors. Used to be a cook at my local bar. You'd be surprised things people ask for at Green Olives immediately. Oh yeah, I believe it. I would love to be a chef or a cook. I mean, it's a very tough job, that's for sure. Especially depending on where you work. But I just love food, and I love cooking. I'll put this here. There. Oh, that's crazy, Praxis. There we go. Along. Here we go. Plan for a fan meeting? Do I do stuff like that? Oh, I've never done anything like that in person. I have never... I mean, I guess it'd be possible, depending. I never kind of considered my fan base large enough to where it would be possible, but I suppose that is true. I don't really know. So it's not snowing now, but it did snow, what, kind of 2 weeks ago when we had the big rainstorm? It's nuts. It was snowing in places where it has not snowed in years and years. It snowed a little bit in North Hollywood, which is where I live. And that's nuts. Like, for anyone who doesn't live here, doesn't know the geography of California, North Hollywood is what you'd call East Valley. The valley is what's north of Los Angeles, right? It is what it sounds like. It's like a big valley. And generally speaking, the valley is hotter than the rest of LA because the LA basin is more open to like wind from the ocean, which is like Santa Monica and Venice and all that kind of shit. The valley is a little bit insulated from that, so it's typically hotter. It can get very hot in the summer. And the West Valley is like the hottest part. The East Valley is the coolest, but it can still get pretty hot around here. It does not get that cold around here for sure. It got very cold around here to the point where it was snowing. And that's nuts. Like, that's absolutely fucking crazy. Like, it's weird. Pretty cool. The only thing that's not great, like, you know, we like when we get rain. All Californians complain about how we don't get enough rain, at least in Southern California, and it's the truth. But none of our shit is built for rain. Everything breaks. I have, like, Port Tyler, he owns a condo, and their unit, they have like 10 units or something like that. And apparently they've now learned that their building was built on a slant because there's like 2 units at the very end of the hall that are just getting flooded like crazy. They also have termites now, like somehow that helped, I think. And even like his unit, which is like the opposite end, so he got lucky in that regard. His unit has like water coming in through the light fixtures, and it's just clear that the whole place was not built to really withstand any degree of rain. There's a lot of places like this. I went to like West Elm, right? You guys are familiar with West Elm, the furniture place? We're trying to get a new couch, which is very expensive, by the way. I was at West Elm on Beverly. Did I tell this story already? Where I walked in, I was just there to like check out couches or whatever, and they were like, their upstairs was just like flooding through their air vents. Like, I went up to check. They have swatches that you can look at for different sort of fabric examples. And yeah, they're just like they had all their computers up there too. They're like design station right underneath the vent, which makes total sense if it's not raining and if you don't expect water to dribble through there. But it was, and those computers were probably wrecked. Dylan Kahn. Have you guys ever seen, actually, hold on a second. This is funny. This is worth taking a second out. One of the April Fool's jokes that we did, this was like 2017. I say we, it was really Tyler. He put together a Belmont Con. Is it BelmontCon.com? Shit. It was something like this. I'm pretty sure it's still live. Belmont Con YouTube. This is back when I was still Belmont Boy. I don't know. Website fan? I don't know if it would show up even in Google. I can't find it, but if I do, I'll look at it on stream because it's really fucking funny. Okay, let's go ahead and look at some mod suggestions, shall we? Okay, now here, let's do this. I'm gonna say poll. What should we do? Mine, the staffs, or users? We'll count that as 2. We'll say poll. Is that, can I do that in, how does this work? I typed that in Restream. I don't know if it worked. It just says it's good on both. Is that what it shows for you guys? What does this do?